And now time for, I guess, long awaited, because everyone here is looking forward to a vibrant discussion on a relevant topic. So let's start it. Our first roundtable of the day, challenges of seed funding for blockchain startups. The moderator of the panel has been ready for the past 20 minutes. Tom, join me on the stage. Please welcome Tom Kopera, blockchain investor and evangelist, serial entrepreneur, works with Polish blockchain founders as a strategic advisor, helping them with seed funding, growth hacking, and product development. Cooperates with VC funds across the world, sharing deal flow and investment insights. We also have Borys Musiałek joining us. Borys, please join me on the stage. He's an engineer turned entrepreneur turned investor, founding partner at Smok Ventures, an early-stage venture capital firm bridging Silicon Valley to Poland and the CEE region. Next up, we have Bartek Boutek. He's joining us online, and we should hopefully have a connection already. Bartek is an angel investor at Ramp Network, My Container, View, Storefront. He's author of Pucek.com, a newsletter at the intersection of business and technology. He's also an alumnus of Stanford Graduate School of Business in Strategic Management. Bartek, I hope you can hear me well. Hello.
Yes. Hey, everyone.
Wonderful. Great to have you with us. We have Miko Matsumura. Miko Matsumura, blockchain investor and unicorn builder. Miko is a general partner with GCC Gumi Cryptos Capital, a Silicon Valley investment fund with over 500 million in assets, including early-stage investments in unicorns like OpenSea, Yield Guild Games, Celsius Network, Vega Protocol, Curido, Agoric, Aster, and 1inch Network. Shimon Chabilski is also joining us. Shimon is a long-time entrepreneur in technology, with him first making his mark in European e-commerce for the past 5 years. He's been in the cryptocurrency industry. Currently, he's the CEO of Luart.io, the largest marketplace for NFTs on the Terra blockchain, with a turnover worth several $1 million a month. Tom, as ready as you can be. Enjoy.
Absolutely so. The fundraising, it's a hot topic. The way I know it is because yesterday it was so many questions. So many of you approached me actually asking about the fundraising. I know so many of you struggle with that and are keen on listening to some answers. And today we're going to provide answer with the most prominent people in that space. As introduced, Simon has just raised a round of $5 million. Like Miko is managing the fund of $100 million plus in San Francisco. Borys is bridging the Silicon Valley investors to Poland. And Bartek as angel investor with an exceptional taste, being early in the Ramp Network or My Container, among others. It's going to be a lot of insights today. So, shall we start? I guess so. Simon, it's easy to raise tons of money for crypto startups. True or false?
Both, I would say. Like, basically, in my opinion, raising funds is something like easy to say, because most of the funds is going to, as you know, you are not a new startup and they want to give you the money basically. But raising funds is not directly rising in a good way, because we need to choose proper VCs, angel investors, and nowadays we can choose two options of raising funds through IDO platform, for example, starter from Polish company. And another one is VCs or angel investors. And it's a problematic thing because we get tons of, as a Luart, we get tons of messages per investment, but we talk daily with, I could say like 5 VCs per day. And I would choose from them like 10 that they are worth to invest the money that they are investing to. And the question is why? Because good money is something critical to me, that they will be the long-term support for the project, not that just the dumping VC that they can ruin your product in long vision. So, in my opinion, raising funds is the money is in crypto is easier to raise, like in the normal way, like the normal world, because basically, but in my opinion, raising good funds and having the good exposure on good VCs is hard to say. In my opinion, like it's hard to find good VCs that they want to invest into you.
Okay, let me then rephrase the same question for our investment panelists. Like, is it easy to spend, to invest actually tons of money for the startups in blockchain?
So from investor perspective, it's quite difficult to deploy capital. I think capital itself is abundant, so it means that venture investors have to add additional value. And I think today the scarcity is qualified entrepreneurs.
Hell yes, I can only agree. Anyone wants to add, Bartek?
Yeah, so hi everyone again. So I can only support what Miko said. I think there's a lot of money right now being fundraised by a lot of startups and a lot of crypto/Web3 teams. But what is really missing is the real problem-solving perspective, like building products around an existing problems. Most of the ideas that are flowing around are putting existing solutions on chain and not trying to solve new problems. And I think that is one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of projects, products, and founders or founding teams are making. There's a lot of capital out there. Some of the runs for some of the startups are 3 or 4 times oversubscribed, and then founders are able to pick the right set of funds, whether they want, a purely, let's say, Web2 fund, or a mix of a crypto native fund, and then, for example, angel investors, and then also do an IDO. But it all comes down always to solving a real problem, so that if that problem is on chain, then it's still going to be solved for the customer. And I think that is one of the biggest, basically right now, problems around that. It's not money. It's like, what do you really want to build, and what type of problem does it solve?
All right, so the way I understand it, just Miko said it's not easy to deploy a lot of capital because of the quality of founders, among other challenges. So I can imagine that you are, like, your daily job is seeing and going through many pitch decks, many white papers and light papers as well, which tells me that if it's not easy to deploy a capital, then a lot of founders are making a lot of mistakes, right? So the question would be, what are the common mistakes while fundraising?
Yeah, I would say that my biggest issue, and this, I want to be fair, right? Which is, my biggest issue is that most founders don't know how to pitch. I want to be fair because, entrepreneurs see thousands of pitches, and entrepreneurs, maybe they only make their own deck, so they only do one, So to me, the one mistake is that they want to be understood. Right, and wanting to be understood is a mistake. Like, you don't want to be understood, because if you put a VC next to an entrepreneur for 10 years every day, and they followed everything you did, they would probably still not understand what you do, because you're probably that good at your job. Right, and you are that specialized, right? So being understood it's a mistake. You don't want to be understood. What you want to do is you want to create a simple if-then statement, which is, you're creating the investor's investment thesis in your deal. You're creating it for them. And the then statement is always exactly the same, which is it's always, then we'll all be rich. Right, that's always the then. So the only thing you have to do in a pitch is you have to establish what the if is. And usually the if is something that you have, right? Which is, I have a unique patent, or I have a unique software product. I have, what do you have? I have a team. I have a unique team. I have a unique mindset, right? What is it that you have, right? And then if you have that, then we'll all be rich, right? So oftentimes people will build 30 slides in a deck, and it's not necessary, and in fact, there's so much information that you don't even know what the simple if-then statement is, right? So to me, you have to boil it down to, like, what is the if? Because the goal of the pitch is to force the person into diligence. And what is diligence? Diligence is just evaluating the if. Is the if true? Or is it false? That's what diligence is. And if you can force them into diligence, you've won.
Absolutely. So, Simon, I would say on the surface, the $5 million round is big, and everyone thinks like it, very successful, and undoubtedly it was. On the other side, most likely you also made some mistakes on the way. If you reflect on those, like, what would be the mistakes that you can think of now?
that I spend time on talking with VCs that they are not giving the value to the product, firstly.
Okay.
And in my opinion, it's like something true. Like we should focus on the big leaders, firstly, like big VCs that if they want to invest you, another VCs, big VCs will come to you. And they will be more agreed to invest into your product. In my opinion, CEOs overcomplicating the product. They're, as you mentioned before, they're showing you 30 slides of the product, and investors doesn't understand it, basically. So you should focus only how you solve it and what is unique with your product. And if you will solve these two problems, in my opinion, like it will solve the whole puzzle. And what is the question before, like the main question?
The question was, what were your mistakes actually that you made personally, if you made any?
Yeah, I made few. Like I started, as mentioned before, I started talking with not big VCs that there was in the first one, and I took too many VCs on my board, and I needed to delete them in this stage, because I was focused on only few of them. Like I can say, like one of them invests over $500,000, and it was one of the biggest VC from the Asia. And in my opinion, like Asia VCs is the mental of them is a little bit different from the Polish side, because as I'm a Polish founder, I was speaking with a lot of VCs, and as I can mention before, it was when you are speaking with USA VCs, they're more compliant and they're looking on the people directly. But Asia investors are looking on the product directly and the analysis of whole product. And you need to show the numbers to them, and they will agree with it. So in my opinion, like you need to besides of this, you need to focus on the VCs that they are giving the value first, and second, you need to, if you are choosing the VC from each side of the world, there are different people behind it.
Yeah, you need to have a product, if I understand correctly.
Yeah,
just to show something.
We as a startup, we got a little bit easier because I choose the side of this that we are first making the product, then we are raising the funds, and the VCs was very welcome to invest in our product directly, because most of the products showing only you the future, that what they will deliver in the future, but they're raising the funds and the project is ending directly. So investors need to carefully choose what they're investing into.
So now we are smoothly actually moving from discussing the challenges and the mistakes that were made or possibly can be made by the founders into the insights, answering the question, and I'm gonna ask this one firstly to Bartek. What does it take to stand out from the crowd of hundreds of projects that are raising now?
Yeah, very good question. I think looking at different products and companies, both European, US, South America, I would say 8 out of 10 do not show even a demo of their product. So they only send and have the pitch deck, basically a white paper, but most of them do not show a demo of a product. So I would say like showing a working demo of what you are building already makes a difference. The second one is, I think, especially in Web3, is around governance and tokenomics. Like this one, especially early on, this topic of having proper tokenomics and governance set early on in a right way, you can easily spot different problems in tokenomics design early on within a lot of projects. So I think the second part is around tokenomics and overall governance, because this will lead to a lot of problems later on. And then I think the third part is like, are you able to identify a problem that is scalable across different markets? Because right now in the crypto space, a lot of people are attacking a lot of problems, and for every problem you will see different teams trying to solve the same problem. So there's a lot of competition also out there. So trying to stand out, like how are you able to understand the problem and how you want to solve it, and what is the team behind that problem? I think that those 3 areas would really make a difference. Yeah.
All right, I think that are the answers and insights that the publicity and the audience wants to actually hear out. So give them more if you have any ideas.
I want to jump in on tokenomics. Right?
Go ahead.
Which is both tokenomics and governance are topics that have mystery, right? And I think that the danger I've seen is lots of kind of brainy consultants with PhDs, right? So to me, it's bad to make these things overly complex, right? So complex governance, complex tokenomics, like it's unnecessary, right? You want functional tokenomics, you want functional governance, and most of the time functional means fairly simple, but it makes sense, it's logical, and it's economic. So that's my
From my side, I would add, like, there's two type of tokenomics, and we should focus as investor, for example. There's two ways, like the utility token and security token. And I think, like, investors looking onto the product, that if it gets the revenue, they are more likely to invest in security tokens because they are getting revenue from the product directly. So in my opinion, if you got working product plus it's earning money, basically investors are only welcome to your board.
So it's not only the investment in itself, like the capital investment, but also return on a recurring kind of schedule. Makes sense, absolutely. So it was said, among other insights, that the team is important, right? I will ask then, Borys, like, what are the characteristics that you are looking in to founders, like when you invest, like what are the characteristics that you look for as the primary characteristics to invest in?
Oh, that's easy. It's just two.
Go ahead.
First, you have to be a superhero, and then you have to be a cockroach, this kind of little nasty worm. So a superhero meaning you have to be the guy who or girl who just kind of gets out there and gets people excited. Both people who you want to hire, your investors, your customers, everyone needs to be like, oh my God, this is really amazing. We want to be part of this. You need to kind of be, spreading the excitement and be the leader. And this is what I call a superhero. But then in startups, like, okay, let's say you raise a great round, but then there's going to be this, the sinusoid is going to go down at some point for sure. So you need to be able to live through that. And the best founders show perseverance, and they kind of show that they can be lean as well. Like, even though they raised a lot of funding, at some point they need to be really lean because the funding is going to run out at some point. And so they need to be able to kind of know where to put a lot, put the gas pedal on and just kind of drive. But then there's types of times then you need to kind of like really be lean and survive. And the cockroaches survive. Like, you cannot kill them. So I think that's the two that you need to have. But this is just generally for startups. This is general startup advice and what we're looking at the team. But then when I add that blockchain part, I think there's something like specific that I'm looking for in those companies as well. And this is the skill and understanding of the industry. I've seen just too many of super enthusiastic blockchain startups that want to disrupt, say, the ad tech industry or the gaming industry or the crypto or the financial industry. And when we kind of get deeper into the product and they're like asking some basic questions on, say, how the ad exchanges work. I'm not saying you have to replicate, like what Bartek said, you don't have to replicate the old world into the Web3 world, but at least understand how the old world works so you can fix it, so you can and then when you, so there's like too much enthusiasm into the blockchain versus not that much enthusiasm into getting customers and getting understanding how you're gonna make money in this. Unless it's basically a scheme, then of course you can still make money. But I'm talking about kind of real businesses, long-term investments, not speculative investments. So I would say that part I'm looking very deeply into, just to understand if they have advisors just from the blockchain world, crypto world, or they have also advisors from the industry that understand crypto, but they want to help take them to the next level.
Absolutely. So if we imagine now, like the perfect founder standing in front of us, what would be more characteristic? That was the Borys take on the perfect founder. Guys, just add some points to the perfect founder on the stage.
So I think one of the biggest topics for me is conviction, right? Which is that the founder needs to be crazily convinced of what they're doing, right? So they need to be very obsessive about what they're doing, and really thinking what they're doing is the most important, irresistible, amazing, and is something that will certainly happen in the future, right? So I think conviction is huge. We actually like to see underrepresented founders. We think that they're stronger and smarter. So we think that founders that have overcome some adversity, whether it's a gender difference or whether it's a sort of a background difference, like underrepresented founders are tougher. They're just smarter and tougher generally.
All right. So the next subject then, and I know it from my personal experience as well, that sometimes when you see the founders pitching, there are the red flags. When you notice them, you absolutely don't think of investment. So what are these tips that you can make to the founders? Just skip the red flags. What would that be?
This is a difficult question, and the reason why it's a difficult question is VCs are pattern matching, right? So they're constantly looking for patterns, right? And the issue is that every deck has like hundreds of patterns, right? And many of the patterns are so small, but they just set people off, right? For example, one of the things in an early stage pitch deck that's just always a problem is if they put too much information on the cover slide, right? Because oftentimes the product is in a very early state. So even if they try to explain what the product is in a few words, it's not even ready for that, right? So they put a few words and then the words are confusing. And now the VC is thinking about 30 different things, right? So, so just put the cover, put the name of the project, don't even put much graphics, and that's a title, right? So you're just, you don't say much, right? But to me, like, what I really wanted to impart is that, like, it's probably really good to get an experienced VC or an angel or someone to really work with you on your deck, because I think if you just take your own deck the way you think it should be and you just start showing it around, you're going to be triggering VCs. They're going to see hundreds of red flags, and they're going to be stupid things that don't even make sense.
So do you suggest onboarding like the first 1 or 2 investors, and then you ask them for help to kind of polish their pitch deck, kind of make it more, more?
Yeah. So for me, I'm an early stage investor. Right, so if someone brings me a pitch deck that looks pretty hopeless, I see alpha, like I see opportunity, right? Because I can generally teach an entrepreneur how to pitch and make a good pitch deck generally, but I can't teach them how to create a product, right? Yeah. So if they come with the knowledge of product, I can usually teach them how to pitch, right? So I'm used to seeing very half-baked pitches, and I'm happy to help.
You can easily spot second-time entrepreneurs and first-time entrepreneurs. Like if you've done it before, raised funding, then you know that all the investor looks for is a story. They just need to be entertained, and they need to understand. They just need to quickly understand what the fuck you're doing. And then once they do, they might ask more deeper questions, but before, it's not possible. If you have this one kind of slide with all the info, they're gonna be like confused. They're not that smart, They're just, maybe they are, but they don't know your industry for sure, So they need to like quickly grasp what you're doing. So the simpler, like explaining like to your, not even mom, your grandma, you might be more successful with investors. And get a guy like Bartek on board early on. Like get a guy like him. Like he's not, he might put some money, might maybe be an advisor, but he will like help you with the just like polishing things out before you go to the big guys. Like
So Bartek, working with founders, what are your kind of red flags that you spot, and then you either decide to not invest, or you see the opportunity, same way as Miko just said, and then just decide to help them? What are your kind of red flags that you have on your list?
Yeah, I think they are very similar to basically like there's no difference for me. Like crypto or non-crypto, like if you're building a great product, then it's awesome to look at it, and you see either first-time or second-time founders that are really product-focused and really do identify a problem, and they are relentless when it comes to solving that problem. They just want to build, and I think that if you have that, that is awesome. But of course, you have also typical situation that I think everyone who was investing had, like people coming in with lawyers, for example, like we are building something on chain, and then like here's our legal team to explain. And you know, these are like funny stories that you will always get when you see like hundreds of teams. So of course, this would be also a red flag. But I think overall, for me, the biggest red flag that I see is you are not focused on, if you are not focused on the problem, first of all, on identifying the problem, but also being relentless about solving that. And I think there's a lot of, like Miko said, there's a lot of patterns that also investors need to unlearn. So you always need to start from basically from zero while talking with a founding team. But at the end of the day, I think it's very similar to basically every startup team, whether it's a Web 2 or Web 3 project. In Web 3, there's a lot of more stuff when it comes to governance and tokenomics. But once you go over that with a team, there's like, if you're interested in this space and you want to build in this space, the discussions that you would have with investors, whether they are angel or VCs, will be very interesting, and they will help you out, or they should help you out also on the product side, on you know, doing tokenomics right, on doing governance right, on fundraising with other VCs. And there's so like, it's also the question, like not only what you are bringing to the table as a founder, but also what are the investors bringing to the table. So I think the red flag on both sides is like, if you just want money, and then on the other side, from the investors, if you just want to invest money. Because in Web3 especially, it's going to take a lot more than just putting in money. First of all, to win the deal. Second of all, to help the founders build a good company, a good product.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me summarize what I just heard. And yeah, I empathize with all the founders. It's a difficult task. Hear me out then. So first, you need to select the right problem, understand the problem, and know how to solve it. Then you need to explain it. Even though it might be a complex problem, then you need to explain the if, because then is always the same, but if needs to be simple, right? You need to be a superhero and spread out the positivity. And at the same time, you need to be a bit of a cockroach. If the money is, you know, shrinking, and you need to survive. So it all sounds, in the same time, tokenomics, which is, you know, relevant but simple and easy to understand. Then you need to onboard first few VCs to help you out with you know, things that you might not be good at. It looks like hell of a process, but these insights, absolutely, from my personal perspective, totally agree, totally support. I think we can, you know, have this conversation going after the panel, so, you know, reach us out and we can give some more advices. And I would like to ask the question personally to Szymon now, as a founder. What was the hardest lesson that you learned while the fundraising?
There's a lot of lessons that I heard from, you know, I was the guy that came from the normal business and wanted to build something in the blockchain industry. And the hardest lesson, as maybe from not the perspective of the fundraising side, but in my opinion, it's harder to get its best team on the board that they can deliver the product, that it's working. And I think, like, as an investor, for example, you, right, you're looking at the people that is behind it. And in my opinion, building the big working team that it's helping with the whole the stuff and giving the passion to the product and giving the drive to hold the team that they can build something that is impossible in a short time period. It's something like, in my opinion, is the hardest lesson that I learned, because I thought that raising funds is the hardest one, but in my opinion, like the hardest part is like building the team that is delivering the product, and investors that they are on the board, they are investing into you directly, and you can share the revenue with the investor in the future. So in my opinion, like building the team that is working and the people that they behind the team is the hardest lesson that I learned from the building the product directly. Because as you know, blockchain industry is the new industry, and there's not a lot of people, and there's a lack of the people that they got knowledge to build something from the marketing perspective, from the even the user experiences, user interface design. It's hard to get people that they know the knowledge. Most of the people on my board, basically, they learned the crypto industry while I was building the product, and this was like 2 ways of this, because they were learning plus they was working on it, and they got the passion to build this product in long-term vision. And the investors look on this, okay, we got working product, we got people that they got knowledge how to do it, and they invested into us directly.
Absolutely interesting, great insight, thank you very much. We already discussed a bit about the importance of having the investors with the added value. So the question to Borys, what makes a good value-added investor?
Well, first of all, just know what you're looking for, because there's different investors who can add value in different ways. We are pretty straightforward about it, that we are investing in so many different industries that we just don't know much about any of those industries. So we're not going to add value, like when you're in prop tech, you're in ad tech, you're in whatever. We're not going to help you operationally understand your industry. You need to be an expert in the industry. But what we can help you is, as we are an VC fund, American VC fund operating in Central Eastern Europe, with connections to both Asia and the US, what we can do, and what we've helped startups before, is we can basically get you to the next stage where you get bigger investors from bigger markets who can then take you to another next stage. So what we just show is like, hey, we're super fast, we make quick decisions, and then once we onboard, we kind of hands off. You have to deliver, but once you deliver, then you get to us, and we will get you the next, we will intro you to the best VCs in your space. And 80% of our startups basically raised from investors from outside of Central Eastern Europe after we invested, so we can show the numbers to back our story. So that's us, but then there are investors who are like angel investors who only invest, say, in 5 companies per few years, and they focus very, very much into helping those companies out. They kind of become a member of a team. Do you need a person like that? If you do, go to those guys. But if you don't, avoid those guys, because they can be a mess. Because they will want to be involved heavily. They want to be kind of like a co-founder. So just having a good conversation with each investor that you're talking to, treat them as humans. They are, kind of. Have a natural human conversation with them, understand what they want. It's not like you're wanting something from them. They want something from you, too. It needs to be a transaction, and you just need to also like them. That's another one. Just need to like each other. It's gonna be a long, long road, and at some point you're gonna be in trouble. You want their support. You want them to want to help you. So it's all of that. So there's a lot of things. It just needs to be a human interaction, and it needs to be matching. Sometimes I'm gonna say sometimes hey, I like you guys. I think it's gonna be great, but am I the best investor for you guys? Probably not. Most likely not. So just go to those guys. They can be, really helpful to you. And founders love that advice because it's honest. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes they come back and say, hey, maybe throw in some money anyway because we just like you. It's okay, I think I can do that.
So we start with knowing what we want, but also knowing what we don't want. So Miko, if founders are approaching you and maybe sometimes even asking you what sort of added value Gummy Cryptos bring to the table, what's your response?
Yeah, so I think we need to be very clear. We are longer time preference. We're high conviction, high trust, hands-on. entrepreneur experienced, builder focused venture capital, right? So, you know, in a sense, the biggest thing we do is we really do help with up rounds. So we help with subsequent capital formation, fundraising, you know, so we definitely work on your pitch and your pitch deck, and, you know, we definitely do these types of things. I think one of the things that I think it's very important for entrepreneurs to do is call references on your investors, right? So you know, a lot of investors will call references on entrepreneurs to find out who they are, and you should do the same. You should figure out who you're taking money from, and you should look at their portfolio and not call the big, high-flying, famous unicorns, right? But call the ones that maybe aren't doing as well, right? And ask how have these people been? Like, you know, if you saw trouble, you know, did they help, or are they ignoring you? Like, what are they doing? Who are they? Right. So find out who you're going into business with. You know, and I'm definitely proud to encourage people to check us out, because you know, I hope that we'll do our best under any circumstance.
Don't just trust the PR, because there's some investors with amazing PR, and then when you look into under the hood, it's else. So just there's websites like Landscape VC. You can go and you can actually see what the entrepreneurs anonymously are talking about VC funds, and then you just talk to portfolio companies. That's the best way to do it.
The other thing to add too is don't just kind of embrace a firm and be like, oh well, that's a reputable firm.
Yeah.
Figure out the partner, like the very specific partner that you're going to be working with as a specific human, and ask about that person, right?
The bigger the fund, the most important that is.
Yeah,
like Andreessen or Sequoia, like they have 100 funds, 100 partners.
So Bartek, as angel investor, what is your proposal of added value to the investment that you make?
Yeah, so I think it's a couple of things. First of all, it's like you put in money. So if I'm writing a 100k euro check, I will get on your cap table alongside other investors. So like it's number one is of course money. Second is like to help you build a team early on, whether you're a VC or an angel investor. From a founder perspective, there's a lot of work when it comes to a pipeline of talent that a company needs to hire, and it's different types of talent. So for different functions, if we have right now, for example, Solana engineers that are being paid 500 on 500, so $500K dollars in salary and 500K in equity or tokens, then to get that type of talent in your pipeline is especially important. Third, I think it's helping with tokenomics and governance. And here I think this is where most investors will fail right now, because it's to get that right, you need to have experience in the Web3 and crypto space to be really a value add to the founders. Then it's also help with, and then you can get specific depending on the fund and on the angel. You can get help with sales, with clients, with partnerships, with launchpads, for example. But it's also, you need to be there to discuss around sales, product growth, depending on your competence, because different funds and different angels specialize in and have experience in different stuff. So to understand who are you bringing in on your cap table and how you structure that investment round from your perspective as a founder is especially important. And also to understand whether you are getting people and investors that are there for the long term. So what Miko said, because you will find also both angels and funds that are really for the short term. And from my perspective, you don't want those. You should have people who will stay with you for the long term. And when I'm asked, for example, in one of the angel investments that I did, like, do I want to sell my stake? And I said, like, hell no, I'm in it for the long run. Until you build your company as a founder to a place that you were comfortable with, and it's like, this is it, like, we've really built something, then for me, that's an information like, okay, I can exit now, yeah, but not earlier. And at least that's my point of view on that. And you know what Borys also said, I think is especially important. You will be working with a person. It doesn't matter from which fund that person is or an angel investor, but you will be working with a person daily or weekly. And you need to have chemistry, you need to have a common understanding, you need to have this feeling that that person is also there for you to reach out and really help you out. And at the end of the day, building products or building companies and also having investors on board is all about relations, and you need to take care of that, I think, first. So look at people that you will be working with.
So it seems like the investment is not just, you know, pouring money into the company. It's more about the collaboration between humans, right? I bet the audience would like to hear out also the Simon's perspective, right? So what sort of value add you experience that you really kind of, you know, can appreciate and tell about it today?
It depends from most of our investors, I could say, like, they are not helping a lot. They are, you know,
let's be straightforward,
yeah,
right?
they are just only money that they're going. They're good money, but you're not, you know, that if you get portfolio with 100 companies, they're not helping that much that they should. So you should be careful with that, that if you are choosing biggest investor in the world, they sometimes don't have time for the smaller one companies, but if they are good money, they won't dump your tokens, and they will, you know, the long-term holder of it. But the value that they are giving you, in my opinion, is like the expansion. It depends from the VC, because some VCs are very good collaboration with some KOLs, so key opinion leaders, or marketing strategists. You can choose for example, another biggest company that they're mainly focused on the development, and they can help you with some, you know, reaching out to the biggest development funds, software houses or something like that, right? So in my opinion, it depends from the VC, but I think, like, from the perspective that what they're bringing and the whole from the advisory things, like we got advisors as investors too, and they're helping you with pitching to the good VCs, firstly. Second, they're giving you the more connection and introduction to biggest names or the collaboration that you can work with. And in my opinion, like, collaboration and getting the partners through the another companies is the biggest value that they are giving to the company directly. So in my opinion, their connections is the key for everything that you can scale a business if you are using it in a good way.
Thank you very much. I think we landed to the end of this panel. I strongly encourage all of you to reach out to those individuals and ask them, you know, more questions during the breaks, during the expo. Thank you very much. A big round of applause from our guests.
Thank you very much, Tom, for chairing and facilitating the panel skillfully as always. Once again, thank you, gentlemen.